How's it, everyone? Welcome to another video here at D8 Sport. Today we're going to be discussing the Italian Grand Prix that just happened over the weekend, where Max came out on top, just beating, I wouldn't say just, but beating Charles to P1. And here's my brother.
How's it, guys?
Yeah, so first off, how's the day been? How are things going?
Yeah, it's been alright.
Yeah.
Excited to make the video today.
100%. So let's just jump right into it. So what are your first thoughts before the actual weekend started? What do you think was going to happen?
So I didn't think I thought Red Bull were gonna run away with it. I always thought their engine was the best on the grid, and then didn't think Ferrari would be anywhere. And I thought it was gonna be Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari in terms of pace.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my initial thoughts on the weekend.
Okay. And did you think that there would have been any surprises that we've had? For example, the last two races at Monza in 2019 with Gasly
No.
winning the race, and then last year we had Ricciardo winning the race.
No, I think those were both anomalies in the season, and they both just happened to happen in the same race in both seasons.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect anything different. The way Max has been driving, I think everyone pretty much expected him to win.
Yeah, I mean, this was his fifth straight win. This is the third race after the mid-season break, and I don't think there's been a single race where anyone's really come close to him. And I think it was the case again here this weekend. I think most people can agree on that.
Yeah.
So let's just move straight on into qualifying. What were your thoughts in general about qualifying? Was it exciting or pretty standard?
It was pretty boring. It was pretty standard. Nothing happened really. The shoot for pole position was pretty. I don't know what the word is, but it was pretty flat because you knew whoever was going to end up on pole.
Yeah.
Leclerc was most likely going to end up there anyways because of the grid penalties. So
Yep.
it was pretty. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it was pretty flat. Yeah.
No, it was. It was a little bit flat, and of course, before Friday, I think practice 3, the news came out that Albon unfortunately could not race because of appendicitis. So Nick de Vries filled in for him. How do you think he did in his first qualifying session?
Yeah, I think he did alright. I don't know. I can't remember where he
finished P13.
P30. Yeah, I mean that's good. I mean I think to make Q2
Yeah.
in your first Formula One qualifying,
100%.
good performance from
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'm very excited to see his future in Formula One.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't.
look, he's a little bit on the. He's not as young as some of the other drivers coming through at the moment. He's I think 27 now. But talking about Williams and Nick de Vries, do you think there's a chance that he takes Latifi's seat next year?
I think there's definitely a chance. I think that I don't know if he'll end up in Latifi's seat, but I do think he will end up on the grid, because obviously Alpine also have an open spot now. Don't know what's going to happen to Ricciardo, but I can see Nick de Vries maybe getting an Alpine move because he's got talent. So,
He does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we should. I hope we do see him again on the Formula One grid next year.
100%. I think he's shown just from this one experience that he's got the talent for it, and yeah, so I think there is a bright future for him, and of course he was in Formula E, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So and he won the championship outside as well last year, I think. So he's definitely got talent. Hopefully he can bring that over to F1.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think his future is pretty bright, like you said. So let's see what happens. Okay, so moving on now, let's move on to the top of the grid. So we had Leclerc on pole, then Max was second, and then Carlos. But unfortunately, Max, Carlos, they all had to take grid penalties. I think it was Max, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton. Those are the ones that I can remember from the top 5 or 6. So there were of course others, but yeah, those were the main ones, I think. And yeah, so it ended up being that in the race, you had obviously Charles on pole, followed by George, and then the two McLarens. Who did surprisingly well, I think, in qualifying? Do you think? Like, I think it was better than what the season has been so far.
No, I expected both of them to get in. Okay, well, I expected Norris to get in. Ricardo has been pretty average in the McLaren car, so Q3s haven't been that often for him. So it was good to see him in Q3, and he obviously got to start P4 with all the grid penalties. So it was good to see the McLarens in the front row after last year's race for them. So unfortunately, obviously, it didn't materialize, but it was just good to see them at the front again.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, yeah, then on Sunday, the race starts. I think it was a pretty standard race start, except for, of course, Norris. I don't know what happened with him, but there was clearly something wrong. And maybe it was his gears, maybe he just, his back wheels are spinning, I'm not sure. But he had a bad start. And I think he dropped down to P7, was it?
Yeah, P7, P8.
Yeah.
He definitely lost quite a few spots.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't remember where he ended up. He ended up P7.
Yeah, no,
he did okay, I guess, to recover. I think he would have obviously expected a lot more points, but it's Formula 1 and happens.
Yeah, 100%. And then just a quick word on what was going on at turn 2. In the first lap, everyone was just cutting the corner.
Yeah.
I don't know what was happening. I know there was contact at the back of the field, but that was a little bit strange. Of course, George felt like he was pushed a little bit. Do you agree with that? Do you think he was pushed, or do you think that was just racing?
No, I think Charles left him more than enough space on the inside. So I don't know what George was talking about.
100%. And of course, talking about the race start, Max, Super Max,
Jeez. Honestly, watching him race like this is an absolute joy. I think it's just showing how good a driver he actually is. But obviously now it's making the season quite boring. It feels like very much 2018 Mercedes and Lewis type.
But I mean, at the same time, if Charles didn't bin it in France, it could have been a different story. I think it's
not. You see, the France thing, yes, but at the end of the day, the regulation change they did over the winter break has benefited Red Bull a lot, and they have the fastest car on the grid. Even though, yes, it might seem on paper in terms of practice and stuff, Ferrari might be faster this weekend. The race pace that Red Bull have, because they don't have as much tire day as the Ferraris, you just can't compete with them. And then you put Max's driving ability into the whole equation, and then he's gonna win by pit stop every race.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't think France would have mattered, to be honest. It wouldn't have made the championship any more interesting.
Yeah,
it's just a bit unfortunate that Charles had the opportunity to win this year, and
it was just the whole general Ferrari messing up the strategies, Charles not having the best performances.
Yeah, exactly. Like Charles has partly to blame to it as well. It's not just the team. He's had so many poles this season, and how many race wins does he have? I think only 3, maybe 2. It's not good enough. And this is Ferrari. They should be competing, especially in Monza. You're starting P1, your direct rival starting P8. You can't. You have to be winning them. P7. You have to be winning that race.
Yeah.
Also, it's a little bit off topic, but Max was booed. I don't really understand that.
When was Max booed?
After the race, on the podium, he was all the teams were booing him.
Yeah,
of course, he didn't win in the best way, but it's
I think
out of his hands.
Yeah, I think there was more people angry with the way the race finished, but I think we'll get back to that a little bit later. But yeah, talking about Ferrari, Carlos, solid performance.
So it was good
from
to see him.
P18 up to P3.
It was very nice to see him drive like that.
P4, sorry, not P3.
It's good to see him getting settled. Okay, can't really say that because he's been there for almost 2 seasons now, but he's definitely coming to grips with the car in terms of he's a lot more confident in braking, overtaking. His overtake into Ascari was probably an overtake of the day. I think he got.
Do you think so? Do you think that overtake was better than the McLaren battle, which carried on for almost half a lap?
It was a good battle, but I'm talking about the actual overtake. To overtake into Ascari takes a lot of
A little bit of a
bravery.
dive, but
Yeah.
also not, you know,
It was controlled.
Controlled, yeah.
He left him
Controlled.
more than enough space. He did it perfectly.
That reminded,
Executed it
yeah,
perfectly.
it reminded me a little bit of old school Danny Rick.
Danny Rick.
Yeah, that was his signature, but yeah. Now, let's move on to who, in my opinion, was the driver of the day, Nick DeVries.
He did get driver of the day.
Yeah, he got driver of the day, but I know when it comes to that, people don't always agree on that. You know, he started in the top 10 because of the penalties, but he ended up finishing P9, which is, I think, a very solid performance for someone who's never raced in F1 before.
Yeah.
He held Joe back very well. You know, all in all, it was a very good performance. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I was, as I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of him. Obviously, I think the season he won Formula 2, there wasn't much competition, so I couldn't really base an opinion on him. And then he obviously went to Formula E. I think he won. I'm not entirely sure.
I think he won last year.
But I know he did well. And now to come into Formula 1 first race, do what he did, he's earned my respect.
Yeah.
And I definitely hope to see him on the grid again, like I said.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was a very, very solid performance. And I mean, after the race, he was saying that he already has shoulder pains before.
Did you see the video of him trying to get out of the car?
Yeah, he had to get help from Mercedes and Williams engineers trying to get out the car. It was a little bit rough for him, but he was saying before the race as well, I think in the parade, where his shoulders were already sore from qualifying and free practice, and after the race he physically could not get out the car, so he had to get help. But I think he did really well. He did what he had to do, and I think if it was Latifi, I would be hoping either my dad can invest a little bit more money into the team or he needs to get quicker somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's time for Latifi. I think Latifi's time in Formula 1 is up.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 3 years. It's about time, I think.
Well, I mean, besides that, I don't think he should have ever been in Formula 1. But obviously now that he is, even with all his privileges, I think his time is up.
Yeah.
Because obviously Williams don't need his dad's financing anymore. They've got to finance Darlington Capital in them now, so they don't need backing anymore as much as they did
100%.
initially. So I think it's time they start striding towards getting back to where Williams once were and getting them name back up there. And I mean, performances like this it's good to see Williams in the top 10 and just doing well.
100%. Okay, and next let's talk about VSCs and safety cars. So there was a VSC early on in the race. I think it was around lap 12 when Charles pit. Do you think it was the right call from Ferrari to put there?
I do think so. Obviously, the way the race strategies go, the softs could have probably gone on for another 8 laps, maybe, I think, from what I read in terms of the strategies. But at the time, it made sense because what would have happened was they wouldn't have pit. Max would have pit because he was behind Leclerc. And then just because of the pace Max had, he would have eventually overtaken Leclerc and people would have blamed Ferrari strategy. And I don't think yesterday you can blame the strategy. I think they got every call right. It's just Max was so fast that you couldn't compete. So I think they made the right call putting him in there.
So now let's go back to Charles' second pit stop. He puts on brand new softs. You know, people were thinking, okay, 20-second gap, it should be close by the end of the race. Why do you think he only made up, about a second before the safety car came out? What do you think was the biggest issue with that? Why was he just not quick enough?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out. I don't know what happened. I have no answer to that question. I think everyone theoretically should have been catching up because obviously the car was there. But who knows? Maybe he just lost concentration. He gave up. We don't know. I think it was external factors.
But I think it was both sides. Right? I think even Carlos had softs on, but he wasn't really.
He was catching up faster to Perez.
To George.
Yeah. And obviously there's a big difference between catching up to Max and catching up to George, but there's also a big difference between Leclerc and Sainz. So I expected Leclerc to catch up.
Yeah, and then that brings us to the last bit of action, the most controversial part of the race, I think. The safety car at the end, where Ricciardo's engine gives up and he has to pull up, I think after Lesmos won, if I'm not mistaken. So he had to pull up there. First, they called just the yellow flag, and then everyone was getting ready to pit, but then a safety car comes out, which was a little bit late. And then after that, with about 3-4 laps to go, they couldn't move Daniel's car out, so they had to bring in one of those trucks to carry the car out. At that point, in my opinion, it was too late to call a red flag to the session. Do you think they should call the red flag when the car pulled up about 6 laps to go?
I mean, as soon as it was called, I said red flag.
Yeah.
Because there was 6 laps to go. It's going to take at least, if everything went to plan, it would have taken 3, maybe 4 laps, probably minimum, because of the unlapped cars. Okay, so first lap, your safety cars come out. Second lap, the car's going in. Third lap, all the unlapped cars have to unlap, and the fourth lap is when you go racing in. Right there, you only have 2 laps left.
Yeah.
I think immediately they should have realized this and called a red flag. I know it's not following the rule book, and after the whole, I mean, this is where the controversy comes in, is because of last season. They followed the rule book this time, which is good to see. But Formula 1 is also a show. It's entertainment.
And look, I mean, it's not like the championship is in a position where that
yes.
decision could be contentious.
Yeah, I don't think that should affect the FI's decision. I don't think the championship should ever affect the decisions they make, because then they're favouring someone in some way, which is not fair. But in this situation, they wouldn't be favouring anyone besides the fans.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they didn't call it. And even if, okay, obviously in the first lap they called it, and then they couldn't move the car. At that point, you can still call the red flag, because then you don't need a safety car. You still get 4 laps of actual racing. You can have a stand start or a rolling start maybe, so there's 1 lap gone. But either way, there's so many things they could have done better.
Yes. Yeah.
And the only thing I can say is that, it's there's a new race director maybe. I mean, there's 2 now.
Yes.
Alternating, so they're learning. They both have very different styles of managing a race. So, I mean, one is very aggressive with safety cars, one isn't. So I'm guessing this weekend it was a guy that isn't very proactive with the safety cars. So you just have to balance it out. But it was a pretty timid end to the race. Yeah. I think that's the word I was looking for earlier. Just very anticlimactic as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they could have done things a little bit differently, but it would have been exciting to see. It's Monza, everyone on new tires, all out racing for the last 4 laps. Could have been really fun, really interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, we didn't get that, and
I think we could have had a very NASCAR type of ending.
Yeah, we could have.
All 20 cars on fresh softs, all just putting it asphalt.
Yeah, 100%.
They're just sending it. I think it could have been a great ending to that race.
So that brings me to my next question: is that we mentioned Nick De Vries. Was he your driver of the day?
No, I got to give it to Sainz.
Yeah.
I think just the way he was, because himself and Perez started next to each other, and the way the Red Bulls clearly have had the pace over Ferrari. To see Sainz doing so well in that car compared to the Red Bull, was just great to see. Of course, Perez had to pit early and stuff, but he still didn't really catch up that much. When he had clean air, where Sainz was in dirty air. So it was Sainz. I think people obviously very emotionally biased because of Nick De Vries having his first race, and he did do well. For me, he was second. Yeah. But I just think what Sainz was doing in that car was just great, because sometimes it's not easy to overtake in Monza, and it's not like he was just overtaking on straights. He was overtaking in Ascari, he was overtaking into turn 1, turn 2, and it was just he was just racing very well, very clean, leaving enough space. It's just good racing. And I think got to appreciate it when you see
100%. So after all of that being said, how much would you, if you had to give the race a rating out of 5, what would you say?
3? No, 2.5.
2.5. I would have probably gone with 3 myself. There was nothing too exciting, but there were overtakes, so it was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm just a little bit biased because of Leclerc and him not winning, and just in general, I feel very deflated with the season right now. So my interest isn't there in the Formula 1 right now, just because I know it's not going anywhere for me as a Ferrari fan, as a Leclerc fan. So it's next up for me.
So now that means our next race is only in October. It was meant to be next weekend, I think. It was meant to be Russia, but obviously because of current situations, it's been cancelled. So the next race is only on October the 2nd in Singapore. Any early predictions Do you think it's going to be as easy for Max?
I don't know. I think Ferrari should be stronger there.
Yeah.
They do seem to have a better car on street
Mhm.
tracks and just in general like very high downforce
Yeah.
tracks. So, but who knows? It's a 3-week break.
Yeah.
Red Bull could bring upgrades. Mercedes could even bring upgrades because I still think there's a win somewhere in there for
Yeah.
Mercedes this season.
I think so.
At some point, Max has to not win, and I think that's when Mercedes will step up. I hope Russell wins it, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So yeah, you're saying that the Red Bulls might bring upgrades, they might be a little bit better. So at the moment, they're on about, I think, 15 consecutive podiums.
Jeez.
And I think during the Seb era, when Seb was racing for them, they had a record of 19 consecutive podiums. So the next 4 races are Singapore, Japan, the States, and Mexico. Do you think that there is a chance that Red Bull will get a podium in all 4 races?
Yes, I think Red Bull will get a podium every single race until the end.
End of the season.
Yeah, they just have such a dominant car right now
Yeah.
after the regulation change. And the only competitor is Ferrari, and you just know Ferrari are going to mess up a race here and there. And I mean, the fact that George and Hamilton have got so many podiums just tells you that it's
Yeah.
not difficult to get a podium this year. And when you are in the best car, if it's not Max, Perez will be there.
Yeah, 100%.
And most likely Max will be there, and you just need Perez to be there when Max isn't there. Maybe
Yeah.
one race, and
Yeah.
which will be the anomaly.
100%, 100%. So I think that's about it that I have to add to this. Any closing thoughts before I wrap things up here?
Not really. I was just I'm excited for the rest of the season.
Mhm.
Just from a neutral point of view, I just hope there's good racing.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice to see Japan back on the calendar.
Yes, yeah, it's been a while.
So, and with these new cars, I'm
Yeah.
hoping it's going to be a good race. Obviously, that's not the next one. Singapore. I'm not the biggest fan of Singapore, but let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
The
Singapore
night races
is
are always nice.
is the longest race in terms of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit interesting as to what happens. And yeah, I think we're going to call it there. Thanks everyone for watching. Our next video is going to be again football related. I think we're going to do a little preview for United's upcoming Europa League game. I think we'll talk a little bit about the previous Europa League game because we didn't have a game this weekend, obviously, because of circumstances in England. So yeah, I think we'll publish a video sometime this week talking about the Europa League. And yeah, I think that's all from us. Thank you so much for watching, guys.
Cool.
And hope you guys have a lovely day forward.
Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.